Okay guys, we're back with the fuel sending unit. As you can see, I sprayed it with WD-40. I sprayed all inside of it. I let it sit for a couple of days, sprayed it a couple times. Taking this little piece off here, as you can see, I sprayed up in here. You got a little collar with a little tightening screw on it. I sprayed WD-40, got all that down in there, kind of let it soak. Sprayed it a few times over the last couple of days. Make sure everything loosens up. Let me put this back on for you here. It's just a little metal piece. Now, as you remember from the last video, this is the rubber gasket that goes on. What I did was soak it down in WD-40 again, and to make it more pliable, I kind of put it in the oven. Got it up to, maybe 120 degrees. Didn't want to get everything too hot, of course. But just got it warm enough to where this plastic was more pliable than it is now. I just slid it off. Yeah, it took a little fiddling, a little time here and there, but I slid it off. I slid it down past the float here. Got the gasket off without tearing it up, so I can reuse it. Now on this little metal piece, you just got one little small tab, little bitty metal tab right there. Just take a little screwdriver and kind of bend it up a little bit. It's a little bitty sucker, but I mean, this whole little piece will just come right off when you do that. Okay, let's get this little low fuel level sensor out the way. Just one screw like that, it'll come right off. Now it's got the wire soldered there. I mean, you could take a soldering gun and just get that little wire off for now if you wanted to. I may do that later. Okay. Maybe kind of hard to see, but you have a little metal tang that slides on a little small coil of wire. Now this is just it's just a piece of long wire. I would say, Lord, just guessing, try to count, maybe about 50 coils around this little doodad. So probably about, I would just guess, about 4 feet of wire that's been coiled around here. And it's open. On this end over here, the wire is just dead open. And of course, on this other end here, it hooks to this little metal piece, goes up. Right here on the top, and it just hooks to this one connector right there. So that's the positive side. And of course, all it does is okay. Let's see if we can get a better view. Now the float is sort of sitting like that when the fuel tank is full. Of course, when the fuel tank empty, it's sitting like that. But when the tank is full of gas, the float is all the way up. This metal tab right here is all the way to the left on the wire that's closest to its connection. So in other words, this wire has a certain resistance in it, and the further you go on the wire, the more resistance you'll have. So when the wire is closest to the connector here, it's going to be the lowest resistance, closest to zero resistance. So the tank will read full. And of course, when you go to an empty tank, this little metal tab is sitting way at the other end of the coil of wire. Yeah, it's got a little indentation that rubs. It rubs on these wires, and it kind of hits, pretty much one or two wires at a time when it's rubbing. But of course, when it's way over here, that's going to be the maximum resistance of the system. And of course, the tank will read empty. So right now, we're getting an open circuit somewhere. We're not reading any kind of signal at all. So something is, it could be just corrosion. Something corroded up, needs cleaning. But that's why I'm taking it apart. But yeah, like I said, we've let this collar soak. There is a little set screw that sets that collar in place. We'll just remove that. Of course, I've removed everything earlier just to make sure nothing was stuck. So we'll take this little bitty set screw out. And of course, on this metal rod right here, it should pop on out, but the end of this rod has been pinched. When they put it at the factory, they kind of got something and pinched it down tight to where it now won't come out. But all we got to do is just get a file, kind of file this down. So let me pause here while I get a file, and we'll get that loose. All right. I was gonna file it, but I'm gonna just do it the quick and lazy way. I got my $5 Drill Master little mini drill here. In other words, a fake Dremel tool. I paid a whole $5 for. Of course, got that from the local Budget Harbor Freight. I'm up under my engine here because I got it hooked up to a battery. But I'm gonna see what we can do here. Yeah, I just got a little tiny stone on the end. It's just one I've had for years that's just wore out. I've had this drill for about 5 years, and of course you can hear the bearings in it. The bearings are kind of hollering at me. They're kind of worn. Got a little Dremel tool, got most of the metal off, but still had a little bit of metal toward the base of it, so I had to use this little flat file to get to the remaining pieces, but it looks like it's wanting to come out now. Okay, it does have a spring. I'm trying to be careful not to lose that spring and go flying off in space there. Okay. Yeah, it's worn down a little bit. That's where it rubs on the wires there on the bottom. Look like it's still savable. All right, next thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna try to clean this up. Try to get some rust and scale. Try to clean it up a little bit better than what it is. I need to put my voltmeter on it. See what we got. Well, using my own meter and see what kind of readings we're getting. Okay, I got it cleaned up. Kind of sanded and grinded around some of these points. Sprayed it with some brake fluid. Kind of brushed it off with a wire brush and a toothbrush. Yeah, your resistor wire and the connector up top looked like that was working fine. It's more or less the ground where the swing arm goes through like that. All this is kind of connected to the ground circuit, and it looked like it wasn't getting very good contact, so I kind of cleaned that up. Yeah, when I took it apart, I just cleaned everything real well. I put it back together. I kind of put some soldering. You can see where I put the new solder on the edges. That's just to give a better ground to this, to the low fuel light sensor here. And of course this plate. I put the plate on and put a few little soldering here where the plate hooks, here, here. And on the back, at the end of the rod for the fuel level. This is the other end of the rod right here. I just took some wire. Actually, it's a bread tie, just a regular wire bread tie that you tie bags of bread with. Stripped the plastic off, and I made a coil. I kind of coiled it up. Soldered one end here at the end of the rod, and of course the other end I soldered it to the body. Not only to the body, but this little plate. So hopefully all that will give me a nice constant ground. As you can see, I got the float at the bottom, which will read empty. It's kind of going about 116, 117 ohms. I got it at the lowest setting, the 200 ohm setting, so that would be about 115 ohms when the tank is showing empty. Let's move the float all the way up. And of course, I'm reading about 5 to 6 ohms, which is within specs. I did look up the factory service manual online, and the specs for this is 0 to 5 ohms full, and about 117 ohms at empty. Let's see if we can check half full. Yeah, 38, 37. I'm just guessing what half would be here. But on the manual, it states about 35 ohms, so all this is working fine. Okay, I got a bowl of gas here. I'm going to stick my little sensor up in. I can see bubbles coming out, so I know it was dry before I put it in there. It should be nice and wet. It looked like it's kind of going about 54,000 ohms is what it's kind of settling at. It's kind of erratic, but around 54,000 ohms looks like it's sitting. Let's take it out. When I took it out the gas, it looks like it's going back up to yeah, it's kind of steadily rising. It looks like it's kind of hitting about 120,000. Now, I have no idea what the specs are supposed to be. I've tried researching it online and just couldn't find anything. But it looks like when the tank is empty, it's reading around 55,000 ohms, and well, excuse me, other way around. When the sensor is in gas itself, it's about 55,000, but when it's reading empty, it's like 120,000 ohms. I'm really not sure if that's right or not, if that's supposed to be the correct range of values, but we're going to check it out and see. I mean, it is doing something between being in gas and out of gas, so we're going to try that out. We certainly have the actual fuel gauge sensor within spec. That's the main thing. The main thing is getting that gauge to work. Of course, that idiot light for the low fuel, I'm really not worried about that at all. But yeah, that's just something I'm kind of OCD about. I like everything to work. I don't like having to go through repairing parts and having some things work, some don't. But hopefully that light just won't come on and stay on. I hate to have a low fuel light just constantly staying on while you're driving. But we're going to give it a try and see what she does. Okay, we're just about there. I put the rubber gasket back on. Yeah, this is the original gasket. I just reused it. It's a little on the hard side, but it's still viable. I put some Vaseline on here and on the mounting points here. Should work just fine. And I'm gonna look just one last time in the tank. Yeah, we got our pickup filter just sitting right up off the bottom where it should be. I'm just looking for any kind of debris or little critters or whatnot that may want to crawl up inside here. So that's good. Okay. You probably can't see it, but it has a little notch right here on the gasket. And you'll want to match that notch up right here at the bottom of the tank. As you can see, it's going to make sure everything's in line. Notch is there. Another way you can tell you got the part number that sits at the very top. Just screw it in a little at a time. I mean, just like you're putting on a cylinder head, you'll want to crisscross pattern from side to side just a little at a time. Now you want to make sure your rubber gasket is especially when you're reusing it, is in the exact same position that it come off. Anytime you reuse a gasket and you put it in a different position, it's usually going to leak. Okay, we got just about everything in. Got the sending unit in. Of course, we got our pickup lines in. Is our fuel filler. Make sure and leave this loose. Don't tighten this up yet until after you get everything in the car and lined up. Now, one last thing, we have pads. I got one pad here. It's just mainly just like a foam rubber type pad. I had another one right here, but it's missing. I'm gonna have to make something to go there. But these pads will fit up against the frame rail in the back. And we had this that came off. Yeah, it's kind of torn up a little bit, so I'm gonna make another one. It sits back here, and this part of the tank is basically going to sit on the bottom of the spare wheel well. So we want to make sure that all our points of contact, we got some kind of cushioning. Even on the straps, make sure you still have your little like foam rubber strips on your straps, because otherwise the tank's just going to bang and rattle all the time. Every time you hit a bump, you just hear rattling in the back. So make sure every point of contact, like I said, you got some kind of cushioning, where it goes up, hits the metal of the car. Okay, looks like you're ready to go. I made another little pad right here. Just some foam rubber pieces with a spray adhesive. Match this other pad. And for the other side, I just took ready board. Just a little adhesive. Kind of put it on the end. About where the old one's at. Don't have to be exact. But I got my fuel lines on, ready to go. So all I got to do is stick this up in the car, bolt the straps on. You got 2 bolts for the strap. The long bolt goes on the left hand side of the car strap. Sharp bolt is the right hand strap. So just keep that in mind. And it looks like we're ready to go. I'm gonna go ahead and stick this up in the car, bolt everything down. But I think I'm gonna go ahead and end the video here. So join me next time. I think the next video is when I actually go ahead and get her cranked up, put some gas in, get her cranked up and running. But if you want to see them other videos, please subscribe and hit that notification button. And if you like to, give me a thumbs up. But until next time, take care.